interviewing some of the biggest names in the sport of hockey and leaving it all on the ice. It's time for the No Holden Back Podcast. Here is your host, Ben Holden.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into the Sin Bin. This is No Holden Back. My name is Ben Holden. TJ Hensick of the Toledo Walleye has been kind enough to join us. We go way back. How are you, my friend?
Good. How about you?
Good, man. It's been about 10 years, I think, since you went to Peoria from Lake Erie when we were together, and I think that's the last time we saw each other. So I'm looking forward to chatting here with you about some puck here for the next hour. What's new in your life, man?
Well, married. I got 3 kids. I just had twins. Time seems to fly. You say it's been 10 years. It seems like it was yesterday. But, yeah, things are good. Family obviously growing, and, I can't complain. Obviously, the world's a little different right now, but just getting by every day as best you can.
Yeah. So congrats on the twins. You have a 5-year-old son, so you got a line now anyway. How is it with the twins? How old are they at this point?
Just over 3 months. It was tough there at the beginning. Felt like a zombie, not getting a lot of sleep. But, yeah, they're good. They're healthy. That's all you can ask for. My wife's doing great, and, we're rolling with it. It's fun. It's exciting, but it's definitely challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure. Challenging enough, let alone dealing with the stuff that we're all dealing with. So take me back to where you were when everything happened, when the shutdown happened. Where were you guys at? What do you remember about that day, that night, that moment when it all got shut down?
It was pretty much the last gathering I had with family and friends, and it was for my son's 5th birthday. It was about March 15th, and kind of just went from there. But we were a little surprised, a little shocked that it happened so quick. I mean, you'd heard about the virus in China, but I think most of us just thought it would never get to us, right? And then all of a sudden it does, and everyone's world's changed dramatically in seconds. And then you go from quarantine to masks and the whole 9 yards. So it's obviously been a challenge for me and everyone else. I mean, you got to wear a mask. You got to teach your kids to wear a mask, why they're wearing masks. So it's been challenging for sure. Obviously, everyone's dealing with it in their own way. But I think being home with the twins has helped a lot. Couldn't have come at a better time for me to just be home and be with the twins and be with my wife as the babies came home from the hospital. Obviously, that was a little challenging having the babies during COVID, but everyone's healthy, and we're trying to make the best of the situation.
That's good, man. Where was the team at that point? What kind of season were you guys having, TJ?
Well, Toledo's extremely good. They've always been good. We were battling with Cincinnati for the first spot in the division, and actually our last game was, I think, the last game in the league, and we played in front of no fans. And in Toledo, they usually get about 8,000 to 9,000 people. It's sold out. It's a pretty good environment for hockey, and to play in front of no fans was definitely an eye opener. It's tough to do. You watch the NHL and the NBA doing it right now, and you see these teams that are doing so well, and some teams that aren't. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's nobody in the building. I think the younger teams seem to be playing better, but for us, it was crazy to not have anyone in there. And then the next day, we got the word that the season was going to shut down. So, which in my mindset, like I think I told you before we started chatting here, was probably going to be my last year. But now you're itching. Should I play one more? Because the way it ended, you want to go out on a better note than a virus ending your career. I still love the game. I'm getting old. You play with these kids that are 19, 20. So it's something I'm thinking about, something trying to figure out still.
You are getting old, man. You're 34 now, man. So you've been grinding a long time, man. And, I'm going to throw some numbers out there for those that may not know. According to my math, you're a point away from 600 in your American League career. In minor league totals, including the 2 seasons with the Walleye down there in Toledo, 757 games and 713 points, man. And you were always a point producer. Your coach in college, Red Berenson, yesterday told me, he said you were a one-man wrecking crew. When you hear that, what does that mean to you, coming from a guy that you played for 4 years, and it's the stature of Red Berenson across every platform, as we know, hockey, TJ?
Yeah, obviously that's a high compliment coming from a guy who's pretty much accomplished everything and anything you can in hockey. Obviously, when you think of Michigan hockey, you think of Red Berenson, and it's humbling to hear that quote from him. And obviously, his new role at the Big Ten, I'm happy that he's back in hockey, and he's obviously had a huge impact on my life and anyone who's gone through that program, and anyone who will go through that program. He's built it up to what it is, and it will continue because of what he's done at a high level.
Yeah, he had some other things. I'll throw those out. We'll get into that part of it as we move along a little bit. But I kind of like to go, when I do these, I kind of like to go back to kind of where it all started. So, take me back. What do you remember about, what age you were and where you first played and got involved in the great sport of hockey? Who influenced that and some of those things?
Ironically, no one in my family has much of a hockey background. I just remember as a kid watching the Red Wings. And when I was a kid, and you would remember during those years, the Red Wings were it. They were the team, the 90s, early 2000s. The Red Wings were everywhere. Everyone wanted to play in Detroit. The Ilitches did everything they could to make sure they had a winner. And I grew up in that atmosphere, and I just wanted to try it. So I asked my parents if I could play, and we went to the local rink here in Howell, Grand Oaks, which is still alive, still kicking. Actually took my son there to skate earlier in the spring. So that was kind of a nice memory to get back to. But, I just played local hockey here for the Livingston Lightning and kind of took off from there. Hockey obviously has evolved with social media and things. People see kids playing all over the place. But I was watched at a hockey tournament by a Honey Baked organization that I knew nothing about. And obviously, if you talk about Honey Baked now, it's a premier program. And I was fortunate enough to get involved with the 85 Honey Baked team. And my hockey career at that point kind of took off with the people that I was surrounded by. And, you can throw out some names, and Doug and Tommy and Tom Mullen. And they kind of take you under their wing. And because of that program, I was lucky enough to be able to continue to get better every year. And then eventually I was noticed by that U.S. national program in Ann Arbor. And if you ever get a chance to go there, I tell anyone it's the best program there is in the world, in my opinion. And you get to do things that most kids don't, and then your game really evolves, and you get a chance to go on to college and continue your career as best you can. So I think with the Honey Baked program and obviously going to USA, it's been a huge feather in my cap to say that I went to those two places, and they've really helped me evolve not only as a hockey player, but as a person too.
Yeah, 2001 to 2003, TJ was there, and 56 games at 53 points in his time with the development program. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I did a ton of your games the last 3 years of your college career, your sophomore year on. Were you going to go to Michigan State? Do I remember that right? Yeah.
So like I said, my family never had any background in hockey. Also, my family was all Michigan State for the most part. It was pro Michigan State. For whatever reason, I was drawn to Michigan. I can't pinpoint a reason on why, but obviously speaking with Red, a lot of it had to do with the way Michigan played hockey too. It was a little different than Michigan State, but I knew at that age, 15, 16, when you're getting recruited by schools, I pretty much knew it was going to be between the two, with Notre Dame actually as a close third. But I sat at Ron Mason's office the night before the Cold War game, way back.
Really?
I sat in his office. I remember talking to him, and we were discussing the future. And I remember him telling me he would not be my coach if I came to Michigan State because he was going to retire.
Oh, wow.
So going into that meeting, I kind of was leaning towards Michigan already. And when you hear a news like that, and, obviously his career, his resume is phenomenal too. He's built a program there that's had some national championships, some unbelievable players move on to the NHL. So you got to applaud him there, but you want to go to a program like that. You want to play for that coach. And when he told me he wasn't going to be there, I pretty much knew, okay, we're going to Michigan. And, it was the greatest decision of my life. The best years of not only hockey, but to mature and become a person, get your education. It was great. Relationships, playing at Yost, so many memories. Playing for Red, obviously, was phenomenal in itself. And, the only regret you have is you didn't win a national championship, but we had our chances, and that's all you can ask for. And you go to a program like that, you're going to get your chances. You just got to take advantage of it. So, unfortunately for us in Michigan, they haven't won one in a while, but hopefully that can turn around here in the near future. Yeah,
and to one thing I want to follow up, one thing I'd written down, and this has always stuck with me. And I told Red when I talked to him yesterday, and I'm gonna tell you the same thing. I tell this to players to this day. It's something you, Kevin Porter, and your good buddy Matt Hunwick always said to me. And you guys would say, why would I not play 4 years here? Yeah. And that resonated with me. And obviously I got to know you guys really well. I was doing 15, 20 games a year with you guys back then and our time in the American League together, which we'll get to. Where did that mentality come from for you?
Well, I think when you go to Michigan as a freshman, I had no idea where I would end up, where my career would go. I should backtrack that a little bit. When I went to the U.S. national program, to me, getting a Division I scholarship was the goal.
Yep.
Felt like anything after that was kind of going to be like an icing on the cake. If you get drafted, you get a chance to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
It was kind of an icing on the cake. But when you walk on campus as a freshman, I think it kind of hits you. You walk around, you get to see everything, you experience everything, not only hockey-wise, but once you get involved in the football game, you go to class, you learn how special that, to me, that place was. You quickly realize, why wouldn't you want to be here for 4 years? Why would I risk going pro after my junior year, which I did consider a little bit, but never really to the point where I thought I'd leave. Why would I risk, a year? Why not go back for that 4th year? It's just a special place. It's unique. And I feel like anyone would say that about any of their alma maters. And college hockey is special. I mean, I joke around with people. I'd say I'd give it all back to go back to Michigan and play another year of hockey there. My games in the NHL, just because it's so special. Playing at Yost was, to me, it's still the best part, I think, in hockey. And I played at Joe Louis Arena, against the Red Wings, and I played in Toronto, and I played in Vancouver in the NHL. It's just special. It's unique. You got the alumni, your alma mater. You got your fans. You guys are doing games. It's big time. I mean, it's fun. It's exciting. And then I think for a lot of guys who play college hockey too, you never really experience that high school, environment, because you usually don't play high school sport. You're usually playing AAA hockey. You're usually playing juniors in the USHL. So you don't have that chance to win a hockey game on a Friday night and then experience what it feels like after a win with your students of the same school. So it's a special place. You win a game on Friday, Saturday night, you get to hang out, whether it's at a house with the students, at a bar, and you can reminisce about the game and talk about how it went down and look forward to the next week. But I don't know. We just always thought, why leave? I always tell kids, unless you're a freak, unless you're a superstar in the making, why go anywhere?
Right.
And I learned that quickly too. And I thought I was everyone, you leave. I had a pretty good career. I'm not trying to be boast my own career, but I thought for sure I'd play in the NHL for a long time. But it's hard. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult, especially to be a top 6 forward in the NHL. It's extremely difficult. And if you're not going to play right away, why leave? I mean, why even have that chance of playing in the minors, especially when you're going to give up something so special and unique as playing at Michigan and getting your degree. And I'm getting to that point we've talked about off the air I'm getting to that point where I'm going to have to use my degree now, and I'm glad I got it. I mean, yeah, it's huge to have that piece of paper hanging and it says that you graduated from the University of Michigan. So to me, I always tell kids, stay 4 years, unless you're Dylan Larkin.
Right.
I mean, everyone knew Dylan Larkin was going to be a
Jack
superstar.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Guy you played with.
Guys that are going right to the NHL and are going to be 10, 12-year career in the NHL. Why risk it? I got buddies that did leave school. Some panned out, some didn't. And the regrets are, I should have stayed. Yeah. We won't put any names out because it's irrelevant at that point. But, I mean, no. I think if you leave school, I think even if you leave school and you're in the NHL, you probably miss it to a degree. I mean, it's special. It's unique. I don't know, something about going down those stairs and jumping on the ice at Yost and hearing the band. I think it's a different environment than the NHL. And then when you get involved in pro sports, unfortunately, money is involved. And everyone goes a different direction because everyone's got different priorities, whether it's family stuff, trying to work your way up the ladder from the AHL to the NHL. You're grinding. The lifestyle is different. You're traveling quite a bit. You're on a bus, you're on a plane. So to me, it's the greatest thing I ever did was stay all 4. And to this day, I would tell anyone that.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, some of the faces and reactions I get when I tell players in the last few years of doing college, and I always attach your name and Porter and Hunwick, man, because you guys would always say that to me, man. And they're like, no way, I'm leaving, man. I'm signing. And another thing I tell them too, and I know you can talk to this, although you played in some pretty good American League cities, and obviously the last 2 years, a great ECHL city and organization in Toledo. But I remember specifically sitting in Notre Dame's new rink, which I don't think you ever played in, did you?
I didn't know.
Yeah, you missed that. You played in the joist with a curtain. So
with the fence going on across the curtain on the other side. So
exactly, man. Anders Lee was in the room this day, and it was Anders and I don't know. I think Ian Cole was in there and a bunch of those guys that and played against. I think and probably played against in pro as well. And I said, guys, here's another thing I'm going to tell you. This arena, you're never going to see anything like this in the minors. It's going to be very rare, man. And some guys believe me, some don't, man. So let's keep on the mission. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's reality. You don't see buildings. Yeah. I mean, you don't see a Yost. You don't see, Notre Dame. I remember playing at the old barn in Miami of Ohio. I don't know if you remember that one.
I do, yeah.
But it only sat 2,500. But, man, was it loud. And it was cool. But, yeah, you go to minor sports. They're in small towns. And you might get 500. You might get 3,000. It depends on when the game is, if it's a weekday or not. Yeah, the environment is completely different. Obviously, NHL, the games are packed, but the crowds is lively. The rinks are bigger. It's a different environment for sure.
So you said a minute ago, and I get it, man. You're a humble dude. You always have been. You're not going to boast about your career at Michigan. I will. That's my job. 75 goals, 147 points, or 147 assists for 222 points. That's 8th all time in the 4 years you played there. 164 games, All-American, Rookie of the Year, on and on and on. All the great things you did there. And another thing I tell people too, TJ, is this. In the years that I've been doing play-by-play in college hockey since 2004, your sophomore year, you are, to me, hands down, the most electrifying guy I've ever seen play in college. I always joke and I say, I came out of my shoes on that one. Whenever you had the puck, man, I was like on my tippy toes, man. I was like waiting for something big to happen, and you usually delivered in 9 out of 10 of those times. My question is, with all that said, what are some of the biggest things that you can look back on now and say were key in your development on and off the ice when you played at Michigan?
Well, I think the environment that you're in with Red, you hear that he treats it like a pro environment, but you don't really know what that means because you haven't played professional hockey yet.
Right.
And it was definitely a professional atmosphere. And he also, because of his career and what he did, he understood the way guys played. I felt like he allowed guys to play to their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, the skill guys on Michigan's teams that he allowed them to do what they did. So he never held you back. He always, would allow you, like I said, to do what you want to do. If you want to make a play, but make sure, you make that play. Obviously, he'd talk to you about it if you didn't, but I think that was huge for me. It was huge for me in that, and same for Porter and, Cogliano and Kolarek and the guys that I played with is the same way. And being at Michigan, you always got extremely skilled players because everyone, wanted to play for Red and for Michigan. So that was huge for development for sure, was that offensive side of things, obviously. And we always had good teams, so we're always putting up good numbers, which always helped you individually for sure. Maybe that was our downfall for the 4 years that I was at Michigan, is we were too offensive. And, you look back and you coulda, woulda, shoulda. Obviously, the goal is to win a national championship, and we didn't. But the memories there, the development on and off the ice was huge. You got to thank Red, the coaching staff. Obviously I had Mel as an assistant there. Mel's who recruited me, and now he's the head coach there. So that's kind of cool to see the changing of the guard and the relationships I have with both those guys. But for sure the facilities are top notch. I think obviously biased, but I think it's the best building in college hockey to play in. Obviously there's some great atmospheres, but for me, I think it's the best, and you always look forward to playing. But you always wanted to win. You always wanted that block M. You always wanted to have a win on Friday and Saturday night, especially at Yost. It was always a cool and exciting experience to sing the fight song, after a Saturday night sweep for sure.
What are some of the most memorable games you had? Give me a couple that really still stand out for you in your time before we get on to the pro game and your path there.
I think my senior year we played BC, and maybe you did the game. I don't remember, but they were ranked. Yeah, they were ranked.
Yep.
I would say we were either 2 or 3, and they were 2 or 3, or maybe one of us were number 1. I think we beat them 3-2. In your senior year, that's a huge win for us at home. Obviously, I think Corey Schneider was the goalie.
He was.
Yeah, and I think they went on to win a national championship maybe a year or 2 later. But that was an exciting, memorable game for me for sure, just to start your senior year with a huge win against a huge program like that. And I have so many memories of different games. My sophomore year winning the CCHA against Ohio State was huge with Jeff Tambellini as my line mate. That was a big one winning at Joe. It was always nice to play at Joe Louis. Any game at Joe Louis was exciting, especially the ones against Michigan State. Seemed to draw a bigger crowd, obviously. And you remember the last one. I still remember the last one. That's tough to swallow. You lose to North Dakota. If my memory serves me right, I think I lost to North Dakota, unfortunately, 3 out of 4 years to end my season. But they got some good players and guys you may have heard of in Oshie and Taves. So when you lose to those guys your senior year, and you see what they've done with their career, it's a little more easy to swallow for sure. But it's tough. Every team wants to win a national championship, and you lose that last game every year. It's tough, but especially your senior year. I remember the locker room, the emotion, and you see that emotion as a freshman, a sophomore, and a junior with the seniors. And it doesn't hit you, though, until it's your turn to be that guy, knowing you'll never put that jersey back on. But, yeah, there's huge memories. Games at Munn, you love going to Munn and playing. It was always exciting. I didn't have much luck there, unfortunately. I think my last game there we won, but prior to that we didn't win much. But, again, that's just home ice in college hockey. It's a big deal. I think it's huge to play at home. for any school, you have an advantage for sure because the crowds are so exciting and lively and fun.
Yeah, two things. So the game you referenced was the first year that Sean Richland, I know you know Richie, and he's a national champ there. Him and I were partners for a long time. Was that North Dakota game, and we were in Grand Rapids. That was our first year doing the regional. We had state that year. Sorry, and but and Notre Dame too. And he's watching the game on the return monitor. And once it got to a certain point, I hit my talkback button in the booth. I said, "You may want to take this monitor off. He's about to throw this thing over the side of the press box." And then one thing that you triggered me with, mentioned Michigan State. This is another story I still tell. I don't know what year it was, game 1, game 2, but you guys were playing state. And I remember I'm facing this way. You're coming out of this end. You pick it up bottom of the circle, and I swear you dangled every guy and you went in and stuck one up top. I don't know if you remember that or not, but that was one that always stuck with me, man.
I kind of vaguely remember that one, but ironically, I remember, I don't know if you did this game either, but Corey Potter hit me pretty good in the neutral zone. And
I didn't do that, but I did see that yesterday when I was doing research.
Because my nephews show me all the time about it because they always Uncle TJ, what happened to this play? Why are you in the air? I would tell them jokingly, well, I land the flip. I land right on my skates. And I just –
You stuck it.
Yeah, but I definitely didn't. But I've known Corey Potter for a long time, so it's funny. I used to skate with him in the summers and stuff, so it's funny to see that picture, that video of that play. So
yeah, I saw that yesterday when I was doing some research, and I knew him pretty well when I worked in Lansing. So fair to say, you and I would have met regardless, because I was in Lansing as a reporter from '98 to '04. And had you gone there and you told that story, and I don't remember you telling me that about Mason. Maybe you did, but that's an interesting story. So let's move on to the pro stuff. You get picked, your third round pick, 88th overall in 05 at Colorado. You sign with them. Talk to us about the transition of, you mentioned it earlier, it's a business. There's money. We get it. You've been in the league a long time. I've been in the pro game. I get it. People that are watching this get it. What was it like for you to go through that first year of transitioning from a guy that was playing in college and now you're playing in the show, man?
Yeah, you sign your contract, you get your signing bonus. Obviously, it's a huge day for you, your family.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember where I signed my contract. It was at my dad's office, which he still works at right now. But it doesn't really hit you until you go to training camp. And obviously, I went a little early, skate 2, 3, 4 weeks before training camp starts. But you walk in that locker room and you see Joe Sakic, and you're just like, okay, this is it. This is the real deal. And that guy, obviously, his career. I'm
selling memorabilia on the side. I have the set now.
You go back to my comment about I grew up as a Red Wing fan, so I always thought the guy was evil, right? Because I was pro Steve Yzerman, right? So, yeah. But you walk in and you see him, and you're just like, wow. I mean, this. What am I doing here? Why am I in a locker room with this guy? This guy's a Hall of Famer, a Stanley Cup champion. And I played in Colorado there for 3 years off and on, and he was there for all 3. He was kind of at the end of his career, but man, you could still tell how good he was and how humble of a guy he was and how good of a person he was. But it hits you then. You walk in, you go to training camp. I go to training camp. I remember playing with him on a line in an exhibition game, and you start to experience things. You start to see how real it is, how hard it is, how good a shape these guys are in, and how good they are. You see the names. You watch them on TV before in college, and you look at the third, the fourth line guys, and you don't think like from watching that they're that skilled, but they are. I mean, There's not drop off. The work ethic is the reason they're there, but they can still do things with the puck that are pretty impressive. So, I go to camp, and then you get sent down. One of the last cuts, you could say, and you go to Cleveland and you start your pro career in your first game. And I remember it being tough. It was a transition for sure. Like you said, I was more of a point guy for sure, but I think it took me 5 or 6 games to even get my first point in the American League. But then you get comfortable, you get confident, and it kind of takes off from there, and you grow, and you realize, okay, I got to do things a little differently. You got to make sure you're taking care of your body, because you're playing twice as many games. You're playing 3 games a week at minimum, sometimes 4. You're playing back-to-back, 3 games in 4 nights, traveling on the bus. It's a challenge for sure. So the first year was tough. The first year, I think it took me 20, 25 games to really get your feet comfortable, feel good about yourself. And I ended up getting a couple games that year up with Colorado, and that really was an eye-opener for sure. I mean, the jump is It's definitely big. It's more detailed about your assignments, being in the right spot at the right time, not making mistakes. Because in the NHL, when you make a mistake, it's in the back of your net before you know what happened. That's why a lot of guys spend time in the American League, is to work on the detailed part of their games, make sure they're knowing all their assignments at all points of time, because you just don't know when that breakdown is going to happen, and you don't want to be on the ice for the breakdown, because you're going to be on the film the next day for sure. Because maybe that one goal that you were on the ice for gave up is the reason you don't make the playoffs, because you lost that game. It's 2 points, so it's a big difference. And you just learn things. Eating in college, you burn calories left and right. You eat whatever kind of for the most part. You're working out all the time because you're not playing as many games, and your energy levels go up and down in pro. It's different, and travel's huge. It's hard, and you're playing against older guys. In college, your window of guys is what, 18 to 24, maybe.
Yeah.
NHL was 18 to 40. So,
yeah.
I mean, these guys have seen stuff. They've been around. They won Stanley Cups. They played in big games. They know how to, handle themselves. And just being in the locker room with guys like Milan Hajduk, Joe Sakic, and Adam Foote, you learn things. You see things. You talk to them, and you try and just be an olive branch. You try and learn from this any way you can. A little thing, big thing. You kind of mimic what they can do, and hope that it is enough to get you in a spot and an opportunity to play in the NHL. So for me, I only played 100 and, I don't know how many games it was in the NHL, but everyone was special. I mean, you never know how many games you're going to get. And like I said, unfortunately, I never stuck. I never got and that's probably on me. I'm not going to sit here and hide behind a tree and say it wasn't, but I felt like I had the skill enough to for sure play in the NHL, but maybe, I didn't work hard enough. So, you look around, you see these kids that are playing in the NHL, and all they do, they're water bugs, man. They work, and it's the difference, I think. And the game's gotten younger because of fitness, for sure. Money is obviously an issue with contracts. You don't see too many guys playing in the NHL over, I don't know, 32, 33, 34 now. I mean, these guys are few and far between. I feel like the window now for guys is 18 to 26. I mean, the best players in the NHL are, they're younger. They're Connor McDavid's, they're Nathan McKinnon's, and they're the way they skate now.
Cool.
That stuff, just because my body didn't allow me to do it, because I never did it. I never did it as a kid. So it's fun to watch. I mean, I love watching the games. I love seeing these kids come out of college and dominate. I think the college game has really taken off for sure, the amount of guys that are playing. But pro, the adjustment's tough for sure. You better be ready, because if you're not, you'll find out you're not. So for sure, those first 2 summers of pro, you got to take them seriously. You got to be in the gym, the weight room, gaining muscle, getting stronger, getting faster for sure.
So you and I got reunited in 09-10. You played 7 with Colorado, had 3 points that year, which I know you didn't want to be there, obviously, but I was happy to see you, and you were part of our team. My question is this. Was that the moment you mentally you made a change? How do you deal with that when you're up and then you're back and, they're basically giving up on you? How did you deal with that, man?
That was a tough year for me. So the year before that, I played 60 games in the NHL.
Yep.
Numbers weren't
61.
great. Yeah, numbers weren't great.
21 points.
21 points. It's okay. Obviously expecting more out of me.
Yeah.
You go home that summer, you're coming back. You're like, all right, this is probably it. I need to be ready. I got to have a good training camp. I go to training camp that year. I remember Stastny, O'Reilly, and Duchesne, 1, 2, and 3 down the middle. And I was like, wow, oh boy. I mean, those guys are superstars, obviously, in their own way. And Ryan O'Reilly, Conn Smythe Trophy winner last year, huge reason why St. Louis won the Stanley Cup. So that was an uphill battle for sure. And obviously lost out. You're the 13th forward there for the first 2 months. I played 7 games, like you said, in and out of the lineup, and then you got to make a change. And they decided, he's got to play. So they send you back down to Cleveland, which probably at the time was a smart move on their part, but obviously for me it was frustrating. You want to be in the NHL, but you go to Cleveland, and it's close to home for me, so that was always nice to be around some family and friends. And I actually had a really good year from that point on with Cleveland from an individual standpoint, but a lot of it had to do with a guy I think you're having on the show soon is Darren Hadar, probably arguably the best American Hockey League player I ever played with, and his obviously numbers speak for themselves. So playing with him that year, once I got down there, was fun, exciting. And kind of re-energized my career for sure, and helped me put up some good numbers and get a trade the following summer to St. Louis.
So those conversations with Hayes, were those fair to say those were pretty critical and kind of a foundation for you as a pro then? Am I getting that right?
Well, we can talk about like a window of opportunity to play in the NHL. It's small.
Yep.
I mean, it's 2 to 4 years, maybe even shorter.
Yep.
It depends on the organization, your age, where you come from, where you're drafted, a bunch of different variables. But in a way, I felt like our careers may have been going in the same path. I mean, that guy put up numbers that are stupid.
Mind-boggling. Yeah.
122 points per year in the minors. And, unfortunately for him, he got labeled as an American Hockey League superstar. Obviously, in my opinion, is unfair to him. I think he had the skill level for sure, no doubt, to play in the NHL. But you get labeled as that American League sniper, and it's tough to get out of that label. It's hard to get an opportunity to play. And I don't know what his numbers were. I don't know how many games he played in the NHL, but I want to say it wasn't a lot.
It wasn't. No.
In my opinion, it should have been a lot more. He should have gotten a better opportunity, and maybe he just was in the wrong era. I mean, maybe right now, if he's still playing, he's playing 1,000 games in the NHL because his skill level was that high. So, again, it's a different situation when I bring up guys like Sakic and Foote. It's still a Darren Hadar in the American League, and he is the Joe Sakic of the American League at that point, and you still want to learn from him and you want to talk to him. And, I went to his wedding in Chicago. We still interact here and there, and just a good guy. But, we talked, and he helped me out a lot that year. Just from we had the same agent, so that was kind of a nice neutral thing to have. But again, for me, I got to that point too, probably in my career, where you're labeled as a really good American Hockey League player. And like I said, it's hard to get out of that once you're labeled that, especially because you're getting older every year and the kids are getting younger. So it's tough, to break to go into an NHL camp at 29 against a 21-year-old. A guy they drafted, obviously it means more to them to keep him, to develop him, and hope that pans out. So from there on out, you get traded to St. Louis, and again, it's an uphill battle. You're going to a new organization. You're not drafted by them. They don't have as much investment in you, but they still gave me an opportunity to play, and I played some games in St. Louis and loved the city, loved the environment, and they were good to me for 3 years for sure. And I went to Peoria and played for Bednar, who I think was one of the best coaches I've had professionally for sure, and he's the head coach of Colorado now, and that team is firing on all cylinders, if you ask me. I think they're definitely a favorite for the Stanley Cup this year.
I would agree. I think clearly them in Vegas in the West, and the East, man. I think you flip a coin, man. I don't know. What do you think?
Again, I think the East is definitely a toss-up more than the West for sure. Yeah. I really feel like Colorado is the team out of the West right now. I think Nathan McKinnon, in my opinion, is the best player in the NHL. His skating ability, his strength is top notch. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, I'm not knocking Connor McDavid. That guy's unbelievable.
No, I get it, man.
He's just fun to watch. He's my favorite player to watch in the NHL.
Yeah,
for sure. He's just exciting. He like he said at one point in the conversation, he pulls you out of your seat. You're just waiting for him to make a play, and he does, and he delivers. And they're fun to watch. They're a good team. And obviously, you may have done games. I never really watched him until he went to Colorado. It was Makar. That guy skates at
no, I never did him. No, never had one of his games.
But he skates at another level, and that back end with him there, it's just fun to watch. And I think they're the favorite out of the West. But Vegas is good too. And I thought St. Louis was in trouble down 2-0, and now they're 2-2. So I can't say that they're still defending Stanley Cup champs. So you got to knock them off first. But I think the West is a little bit deeper. But I feel like if you talk to anyone in the hockey world, I feel like they always say the West is a little bit deeper. But I don't know. I mean, it's the NHL, and you can win on any given night. And right now, with the way the atmosphere is and the environment, I think the youth is the key right now. I don't think the kids know any better. I think no fans. They're just there to play. They're trying to get a job. To them, they don't have to worry about family not being in the bubble, and they just play hockey. So I think youth right now is a huge advantage for teams in the bubble.
Nice. There's a little sidebar there, a little NHL breakdown from TJ as we move through here, and talking a lot about his career and some of the stops and, some things he's learned. And hopefully there's some young guys out there that'll see this. And, like you mentioned, I do remember that now that you mentioned Hayes. I remember how, you guys were together and what a duo that was. And it was a hell of a lot of fun to do those games. So from St. Louis, you're there 2 years. You go to Sweden. I remember seeing that. What was behind the decision to go over there and play with Modo for a year?
Relationship with Peter Forsberg, who I played with for, I don't know, maybe like 10 games in Colorado. He came back for a playoff push. I actually only played 2 playoff games in the NHL, both against the Red Wings, ironically, but Forsberg was on that team, and one of the nicest guys I've ever met in hockey. And side story, we lost. We got swept by Detroit. I think Johan Franzen broke the NHL record for most goals in a series.
Yes.
Crazy. They went on to win the Stanley Cup, whatever. But we lose, we get swept. He comes up to me after the game and invites me and my family, who was in town in Denver, to a party after for a season-ending party, which I was an up-and-down guy. I didn't have to do it, but phenomenal human being. Anyways, that was the relationship there. He owned the team in Modo with Marcus Naslund. Marcus Naslund was the GM, and Peter Forsberg was I think he was the owner. But that was how I got involved with Modo. And my agent knew Marcus Naslund a little bit. And at that point, I'd been 6 years pro, 3 with Colorado, 3 with St. Louis. We talked to my agent. We're debating on what should we do. A lot of guys jump for Europe at that point. Like I said, it's tough to crack the NHL your first year, let alone going into your 7th. So we thought maybe if I went to Sweden and had a really good year, because a lot of people think the Swedish league is top notch, maybe the best league out there besides the NHL, you could come back. And I just gotten married. My wife and I thought it was a good idea. Let's go, let's explore the world. Let's play hockey in a different country and see what it's all about. And unfortunately, it didn't work out too well from a hockey standpoint, but we loved it. Sweden is amazing country. Stockholm was one of the best cities I've ever been to. People were super nice, beautiful place, and recommend visiting it if you can.
So after that year, 31 games over there. So you went from there to Hamilton, Charlotte, Utica. You were in Ontario with LA for a couple years, and you end in Toledo the last 2, which we'll get to in a moment. So kind of like just trying to find a spot, right, is what you're trying to do there, and all those stops? Yeah,
connections is tough. I mean, the veteran rule in the American League is tough. You only get 5 guys on your team over 270 American League games or pro games. I count the NHL games too at that point. So, like I said, if you look at the hockey across the board, it's getting younger and younger. And these guys are trying to develop kids. They're trying to. So the American League's got younger. A lot of guys jump ship to go to Europe. So, unfortunately, when you name off all those teams, it sounds like I was a suitcase. But it's tough to. tough to keep your spot. And in my last couple of years there in Ontario, it was nice to be able to be in one spot for a couple of years. And all those places close to your heart, good memories, different spots. Hamilton had a good connection there. Sylvain Lefebvre was the coach, another connection from Cleveland. So that was a connection there for me. Hockey's a small world. So for me, it was using connections, trying to find jobs. Like I said, it's a livelihood at that point. You're trying to find a way to make your money and survive and pay your bills. So, you bounce around a lot. It's tough, like I said, though, on the family. And then you have a kid, and it's even harder. So, hockey's given me so much. I'm not trying to knock it at all one bit. Love it. Love the play still. And it's a grind though. It's tough. It got to be harder on my wife and harder as you get a kid, and now you got 3. So, that was part of why you move around a lot. You're just trying to find a way to survive.
Yeah. So, excuse me, obviously you touched on it earlier as we kind of get into the Toledo aspect of where you've been the last couple of years, with the exception of 6 with San Jose 2 years ago when they brought you up. But how much did that play into it? And I guess my question would be, do you live in Toledo with your family during the season, or you leave them here, and are you just kind of going back and forth? How do you do that?
I just go back and forth, actually.
Really?
It's about 55, 60 miles.
Yeah.
A little bit of a commute, but the stability in the life is so much better for my wife and my kids. My son has been in preschool. He's started kindergarten today, but now with the twins and my wife working, it was just huge. And my first year in Toledo, I thought for sure would probably be my last. I never experienced the ECHL. I didn't know anything much about it. Obviously, it's similar to the American League and travel and all that. But I've always heard amazing things about Toledo. I don't know if you've ever been to a game, but they sell out every single night. 8,500. It's packed. It's cool. It's an environment that you want to play in. Environment you don't see a lot in minor hockey. And I enjoyed every minute of it. And they're always good because everyone wants to play there, because not every city in that league is like Toledo. You go through your first 4 or 5 months enjoying it, having a blast playing hockey. You almost feel like you're in college again. It was so much fun. And then San Jose called and asked if I was interested in coming back to the American League in California. Again, it's tough at that point. You got a family, you got a kid, and you got to figure it out. And they were maybe the best organization I'd ever been with from accommodating an individual and their family. They were super nice and made it the easiest transition I've ever had in pro sports. So throw them out a little bone, I guess, on the show. But I went to San Jose, enjoyed it, and then came back home for the summer and thought, I had so much fun in Toledo. It worked out so well. Living at home in my own home, my own bed every night for the most part. Let's play one more year. Let's go in the mindset knowing this is it and enjoy it. No pressure, no stress. Not worried about a contract the following year. just enjoy life and have fun. And I built a relationship with the coaching staff there with them and the guys, and I enjoyed every minute of it. It's great. The atmospheres are fun. And then you get to that point this year where, unfortunately, the virus hits the world and it gets shut down. So part of me doesn't want to end my career on a virus, but that's where I'm at right now, trying to figure out if one more year is going to be suitable enough for the family in different ways, in different situations. So
when do you feel you need to or have to make that decision at this point?
Been an open dialogue with Toledo. I feel like I'm leaning more towards playing one more year, especially because the start date won't be till December 4th.
Right.
Allows my newborn twins the chance to be a little bit older, sleep a little bit better, and make life easier on everyone with that. With sleep is huge. So, and then, you got different variables. So my wife's job, you got my son in school. Hopefully he's in school all year. I don't, the world the way it is, you just don't know. Babies are healthy. Everything's good there. And that was more of my concern, was the babies. Playing one more year was all about where the baby's going to be, where are they at with their life, are they healthy, are they sleeping? And now everything being shifted with the virus, leading towards playing, but haven't skated in a while, with where the world was. Been working out, trying to stay in shape, and we'll see. I mean, I got to say that Toledo is probably, it's like Cleveland. You remember the crowds there. It's super exciting. 8,500 people every night at the Huntington Center. It's exciting to play in front of, and you want to play. I mean, it's just a good environment. And for me, all about last year was playing the playoffs. That's what I wanted to do. That's the environment I wanted to put myself in to end my career. And I didn't get that chance this year, obviously, because of the virus. And, you have that itch, and I'm 34. You still have the itch to play. I mean, obviously, I know that's coming to an end at some point. It could have been last year. It might be right now. You still love the game. You still love to watch the game. And, my son, he's going to start. So maybe that's the reason you move on, so you can start to watch him play and enjoy the game in a different way.
That's awesome. Now, your first year there, you guys had a pretty deep run, right, with Toledo?
Well, they did. They had a deep run. I ended up leaving for San Jose, and I remember getting the phone call. Oh. We were actually number one in the American League in that division, San Jose, when I got there. They only had one veteran to go back to the veteran rule. They only had one, and they wanted another guy on board. So I said, yeah, I'll come. And, I remember getting the phone call from Toledo, the coaching staff, because I had to be put on the roster. And in the ECHL, you can only carry 4 vets. In the American League, you can carry 5. Everyone assumed that San Jose, the Barracuda, were going to have a long playoff run. So we agreed not to throw me on the Toledo roster. And, of course, Toledo has an unbelievable run to the championship series, and they end up losing, I think, in Game 6. But, it was actually tough to watch. When I got bounced in the first round of the American League playoffs, it was tough to watch Toledo play, because you want to play in that environment. You want to play in that building, the games. Like I said, if you've never seen a game in Toledo, you should go check it out. It's worth the environment. It's worth being a part of. It's pretty cool place to play minor hockey.
Yeah, once we got through football season in Cleveland, man, I mean, you were there a couple parts of 2 other years that I wasn't there. And, I mean, we'd have 15,000 people in the building, man. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the state of Ohio has been pretty good to a Michigan guy, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you get 15,000 people. I remember looking at the box score and seeing the 15,000, looking at the box score Arizona game and going, wow, they only had 14 tonight. You get more than the NHL team. Yeah, it's a cool place to play for sure. It's great memories playing in Cleveland. Huge crowds, great city. That's a great spot for that team. I think people wonder, could they support an NHL team? I don't know, but they support that team extremely well for sure. Yeah,
I said in the time I was there they could, and to me, it made sense for them to finally get aligned with Columbus, but I know there was, Gilbert wasn't happy. Columbus got the NHL team and he wanted it. And I'm glad to see they finally, I mean, it makes sense. And from, all your stops, most of these towns and these American League teams, a lot of them now are doing it. I mean, hell, look at Toronto going up there. I mean, they're in the same city. I think Grand Rapids might have been one of the first ones to kind of do that. Am I right? You've been in the league for a while.
Yeah,
right?
Now they might be one of the farthest away from there.
Right, exactly.
When I was in Ontario, the next year after I left, they're practicing the same rink as the Kings.
Like Manitoba, like Winnipeg.
They use the same facilities and everything. They just play their games in Ontario. I mean, these teams are thinking that's just the way to go, because the games are so hard now, and the way the guys play, it's so fast, so strong. They get hurt so often. These guys are used so often that they need them. They need them around. And the relationship needs to be good for the in and out guys. So I think it's huge for these teams to have their American League team so close. It's only beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. So the I'm staying with the Cleveland thing. So we got treated really well there. And you mentioned how well you were treated in San Jose, and I'm sure there's other spots that you were too. But the point is, in the ECHL, there's no planes involved, man. So talk to people about what some of those trips are like. I remember running into one of your old teammates, Billy Sauer, a few years ago, and I want to say he was down south and they were playing Kalamazoo. And I go, how long was the ride on the bus? He said 13 hours. So what's it like traveling in that league, man?
Yeah, Toledo actually, we get treated really well. We've flown. I remember flying to Boise. We flew to St. John.
Really?
We fly not quite a bit. We fly when necessary, I guess.
Okay.
We've had the longest bus ride I've had, knock on wood's only been like 10 or 12. But that's still pretty long. Sleeper buses. They're tight quarters. You get a little bunk, you hang out, you try and get as much sleep as you can. And usually when you're on the road in the ECHL, you're playing 3 games in 3 nights. Actually, you're probably playing 3 games in 2.5 days. So it's a challenge for sure. Fortunately for Toledo, the division's not terrible. It's Fort Wayne, Cincinnati, Kalamazoo, Indianapolis. So it's not terrible. And from what I'm hearing this year, the league is trying to accommodate the teams that they're only going to play within their division because of the virus. They're going to keep everything a little bit as best they can, safer, I guess, in a way. But yeah, I mean, I've had some bus trips that are brutal. I mean, you always wonder. Unfortunately, you hear stories of bus crashes. I mean, you think about the one in Humboldt. I mean, it crosses your mind. Unfortunately, I mean, late night trips. You're 3, 4, 5 in the morning. The bus driver's been going for a while. Unfortunately, it's part of the job. I mean, you're getting in late, you're getting into a hotel about 5, and your game could be at 1. I mean, that's not much of a turnaround time, but you got to find a way to grind it out. When I say grind it out in professional sports, that's when you're grinding it out. You're trying to survive. You're trying to find a way to be at your best, because no matter where you're playing at any given point, someone could be watching you. And I've learned that. I've seen that. Even when I play games in Toledo, there's scouts trying to find somebody. And the way social media is now, they'll find you. I mean, talk to parents around me now, kids, should I play AAA, should I play AA? Listen, they're going to find you nowadays. Like, it's right. It is. It's just the way it is. If your kid loves the game of sports, just let him keep going, and hopefully he has a chance to keep climbing the ladder, but they'll find you. So, yeah.
Just to follow up on something you said there. So I remember the first, you were with Colorado my first year in Lake Erie, and David Oliver, Ollie as we know him, another former great Michigan player. He kicks my seat, we're about an hour into the trip, and, I'm over there doing some work, and he sat right across. So he gives my outside seat a tap, and he goes, "Hey, Benny." I said, "What's up, man?" He goes, "You're going to find out this is the hardest league in the world to play in." When you were talking about all the travel stuff, is what kind of popped into my head. And I was like, right?
Yeah. Hey.
Whatever. About a month later, he wakes me up. I think we went Toronto, Hamilton, and then we had Roch in a 3-3. And we rolled into Roch, like you said, like 4 or 5 in the morning. Well, it wasn't that late. It was probably 3, but nevertheless. And I'm in a pretzel in my seat, man. And he goes, "Remember what I told you about a month ago?" I go, "Yeah, you were right." And I'd only been doing it like a month, and I wasn't playing.
It's challenging. Yeah, people joke around that it is the hardest league to play in because of that.
Yeah.
In the NHL, you're on chartered flights. You're having steak dinners on the plane. You're going to stay at 5-star hotels. You're getting in at decent hours. American League obviously is not like that, but it's challenging. I mean, the lack of sleep is the issue in the American League. But now it's a little bit better. Teams seem to be closer together. I mean, you got your Pacific Division out west with everyone pretty much in the California area, so the trips aren't terrible. And they're playing a little bit less games, so you sometimes have days in between. But, I mean, it's just, again, you got to take care of your body. You got to take care of yourself because, like I said, you just don't know when someone's watching you. It could be that one game on a Sunday. Yeah, it might be your 3-3, but this is your chance. This is your opportunity. You're on an American League deal. Heck, you may be on your ECHL deal, and you got a chance to play in the American League. And I don't know, head scout from Buffalo's in town to watch someone play, but he happens to see you when that guy's playing. So you got to take advantage of it when you can. You got to find a way to grind through it and take advantage of the opportunity. I mean, not too many people get to play pro sports. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm still excited to play. Even if I go back and play in Toledo, NHL, AHL, ECHL, playing in Sweden, it's still an opportunity to play professional sports. And, like I said, it's not a lot of people get a chance, and you just got to have fun with it, run with it, and work hard. Yeah.
You're another one of your former teammates popped into my head when we were together, Matt Ford. I think Matt's maybe a year or 2 older than you, and he's still going, man. So point is, you guys obviously have that deep passion, that desire to play and compete and try to win. What's it like for you now when you have younger guys that look up to you as the old guy, man? Tell me some things along those lines in terms of, what do you tell these guys that are like, say, 25, 26?
Yeah, the questions, they want to hear stories. They want to know about guys you play with, who's the best player you play with, what the best barn you played in.
Yeah.
A couple stories. I remember my first week or two in Toledo, and William comes running in the locker room, loves to be around the guys. I think people listen, that's my 5-year-old. But
yeah, I
remember guys in the locker room looking around, whose kid is this? Like, why is this kid? Why is there a kid in a locker room? Like, I don't understand. And they look at me and they're like, oh, you have a kid?
You're a dad?
So it puts it in perspective a little bit, but it's fun to see him interact with the guys. It brings a little bit of a different element to the guys that are 20. All they want to do is go home and play Fortnite or whatever. But, it's fun to be on that side of it in a way. It kind of keeps you a little bit younger in a way, to be around the youth, to see them develop, to see how excited they get when they score a goal, to go out to dinner with them on the road. To me, they just love questions. They love to ask, who is the best player? That's the big question usually. Time at Michigan, different schools, different colleges, different juniors, they ask about, your relationships with whoever. I mean, it's you've been around, unfortunately, as long as I have. I know a lot of people usually on different teams. I know at least a couple guys. They want to know, should they sleep? How much? Should they be in the weight room? Should they be doing this? Should they be doing that? What do I eat before games? Not that I'm a nutrition freak, but, you just try and help them in any way you can. Any little bit, any little guidance you can get. For me now, it's fun to see guys go up. He played with a guy 2, 3, 4 years ago that was grinding away in the American League, and now he's getting play in the NHL. He's taking advantage of an opportunity. So things like, it's just fun. You definitely are the old guy for sure. The game's getting younger and younger. But it's still exciting to go to the rink. Still fun to go to and compete with the guys. Just enjoy it. Like I said, it could be my last year. It may have been my last year, but you still love the game. You've been around the game long enough to know it's one of the best in the world, and the people around it are amazing. The coaches, the management, the trainers. You just build relationships, and to me, that'll be the thing you miss the most for sure. The interaction at the rink, not necessarily the being on the ice part, but the joking around in the locker room, things like that. Going to dinner on the road, playing the cards on the bus. Those will be the things you miss for sure.
Yeah. Again, you keep triggering me on things to hit you on. So you're getting older. I'm getting old. I'm going to be 50 in November, man. So I know you were very close with Hunwick and Kevin Porter. What are those guys up to now? Are they still kicking around, or what are they doing? Yeah,
Port's played in Roch. He just had a baby. I think he's going to play another year. Obviously, the world is crazy. I don't know. Matt's had a great run. Obviously, he's played a lot of NHL games.
Yep.
Unfortunately, last year he was still under contract with Buffalo there, and he got to be, volunteer assistant coach there for Michigan. So that was probably, a great experience for him for sure. And got to finish out his contract with Buffalo. But he works so hard and he plays so hard that unfortunately he's had some injuries that have, affected his career. But, he's had a heck of a run. Amazing to see how many games. I think he's played over 500 in the NHL, which, playing 100 and seeing how hard it is, it's difficult to play 500. I can't imagine, but he kept himself in amazing shape. He's a guy that, you look up to in that aspect. I mean, he worked harder than anyone I've ever seen, and that's the reason why he's played so many NHL games. I mean, I don't think in college anyone ever thought he would have played 500 games, but his work ethic was bar none. I mean, the best there is out there, and that's the reason. And I've seen quotes from Mike Babcock when he was in Toronto about how good of a work ethic he has. So, that's just a huge compliment for him, and it shows on how many games he's played.
I mean, he's one of the best skating defensemen I've ever seen, man. He was unreal. And go ahead.
I was gonna say he can pivot like no other for sure. He can get back and pivot and force you to the outside. And great guy. Just a all around good hockey player. I mean, I wouldn't say he was amazing at anything, but he was really, really good at everything. That's what they need in the NHL. And like you said, his skating ability for sure kept him in the NHL for as long as it did. And he'd probably still be playing if he was didn't have as many injuries as he had for sure.
Yeah. I remember one night we were all hanging out after a game and he was struggling. I forget what year it was, but he was in a funk, man. He like 10 games, he couldn't do anything. And he turned and looked at me and he goes, he goes, how do you think I've been playing? I was like, oh shit. Like I knew you guys, but I haven't known you forever. I did your games and, we spent a little bit of time together here and there. And I said, I looked at him, TJ, and I go, I've seen you play better. I saw him about a month ago hanging out in a similar situation, and he looked at me and he goes, "Thanks for that, Benny. I needed a little kick." I said, "I didn't do shit. You asked me a question. I answered you honestly."
He was his biggest critic. I think that was maybe the reason he was so good. You know, that's the reason he put it so long, is he was so hard on himself that he always wanted to be better. I mean, that's a huge attribute to have. You know, that's the reason I think he continued to push himself every single day, and that's why he got to play through 500 games in the NHL. And you know, like I said, hats off to him for doing that. It's tough. It's very challenging to do and stick in the NHL, especially as a defenseman. Yeah, it's challenging enough to be a forward defenseman. No chance. It's just so hard. So, you know, good for him. It was fun to watch him play. Ironically, I don't know if we ever played against each other pro.
No.
I don't think we ever crossed paths anywhere. Ports and I played on a line pro for about 2 weeks in Colorado. He got traded and then he got called up, and then he went a different direction too. But we played against each other, him and I. But I don't think Matt and I ever played against each other, which is kind of ironic with the teams and the age and everything. So just a interesting fact.
You had to have played against Cogliano in the show, right?
Yeah. Guy can skate as good as anybody. Oh. You watch him still phenomenal skater. I mean, he was a phenomenal skater in college. I mean, you know, I go back to that. You ask about guys leaving pro. He was the guy that should have left, and he did. His Iron Man streak or whatever, I don't even know how many games it was. Phenomenal. Absolutely insane. Over 700, man. Yeah. Another guy like Matt that kept himself in phenomenal shape, pushed himself to the limits every single day, and that's the reason he plays 700 games in a row. I mean, that's just unheard of. So, yeah. Well, one last thing we're going to do here, if you're cool with it, we'll have a little. I mean, we've had a lot of fun here talking. I'm just getting my stopwatch out. So we've added on these podcasts I'm doing for the Sin Bin. We're doing a segment called 2 Minutes in the Sin Bin. You don't spend a lot of time in the Sin Bin. You never really did. One year I tried to go 0 penalty minutes. I think I ended with 2, and I always got asked, which is worse, ending with 2 or ending with 0? You know, and I was laughed about it, and I said, "What's the answer?" I think 2 is worse than 0, right? Like, why couldn't you just stay at 0? Why'd you got to get a 2 minute? And for me, it was probably a 2-minute delay of game penalty for flipping the puck over the probably something stupid like that. But that was always an interesting conversation I always had. So yeah, let's do it. All right, so I'm gonna keep an eye on this. We don't have to get through all these, but we're just gonna go until we hit 2 minutes, so we can just keep talking like we're talking. So let's see, get ready to go here. All right, you ready? Yeah. 2 minutes in the Sin Bin with TJ Hensick. Your first car? A Chrysler LHS. Trunk was broken. I think it was a 1994. Nice gold color. Was my dad's old car, and that was it. Had a lot of miles on it. I remember that. Drove it all the way through college? No, I ended up getting a Dodge Stratus when I went sophomore year of college. But I had it my freshman year for sure. Actually, no, I didn't have my freshman year. You couldn't have a car on campus. So, yeah. I had it since I was 16 to 3 years. So, yeah. All right. Best coach in any sport of all time? Oh, that's tough. I've had some really good coaches. Obviously, Red, I think, is the best coach I had before pro. And then professionally, I got to say Jared Bender, who's coaching Colorado, just the players coach. I felt like he understood guys' personalities, the way they played, and allowed them to be the person they're supposed to be. And, it's no surprise he won a championship in the ECHL, AHL, and looking like he has a chance to win the Stanley Cup in the NHL. So those would be the teams. Favorite type of music? Country. Okay. Pre-game rituals, if any? Big sewer guy. I love to play soccer before the game with the guys, get loose. That'd be really my only ritual. But when I was at Michigan, I used to sit in row 7 and seat 7 because I wore number 7 at school, right by the locker room there. So that was probably a ritual that I always tried to stick by. Okay. Pet peeve? Unfortunately, right now, I'd have to say I drive by people on the highway and they're wearing their mask in their car by themselves. That would be my pet peeve a little bit, I'm all for masks. I wear them in the stores. I wear them all the time. I think it's great. When I drive by, I always wonder, should I be wearing one in my car by myself? But, that's just a little bit something that popped in my head. All right. We got about 10 seconds left. I know your favorite NHL team is Detroit. Fair enough, right? Yeah. So you mentioned it earlier. Last question, 5 seconds. Favorite NHL player? Nathan McKinnon, no doubt. He's just electric to watch. Done. 201, man. Not bad. Yeah, not bad. Yeah. Right, I don't know how people are going to take my mask comment, but, you drive down the road and I see him and I'm always like, man, I feel you. I feel like And then I always question myself, maybe I should have it on in the car, but I'm like, well, it's the point. I don't know. No one's around me. But, it's what popped in my head. So.
Oh, I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that 100%. We could go on for another hour. Appreciate you doing this, TJ. It's great to see you, man. And you know how I feel, man. I've always been a fan. You're a good dude, hell of a player. And you have supplied me and all those that have watched all the years. I was fortunate to call your games in college and in the American League. A ton of excitement, man. And best of luck to you and your family and making your decision on what you're going to do coming up here in the 2021 season.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to catch up, for sure.
Anytime. That's TJ Hensick of the Toledo Walleye. This has been No Holden Back on the Sin Bin. For TJ, Ben Holden, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time with an all-new episode.
You've been listening to the No Holden Back Podcast. For the latest news around minor league hockey, download the Sin Bin app, now available in the Google Play and Apple app stores.